I was 22 years old, and I was working in downtown Manhattan by the seaport.
I was in gym class. I was 17 years old.
Tú trabajabas en Long Island City cuando pasó. En Long Island City. Yo llegaba ahí todos los días a las 5 de la mañana. Sí.
We was driving normal down the street, and all of a sudden, this, what I thought at the time, some crazy lady ran out the house, flapping her hands, like asking for help.
It was during the home period of my high school.
How old are you?
15.
Ese día yo recuerdo que me levanté temprano, llamé a mi mamá, que vivía aquí en Queens. Yo vivía en ese entonces en Toms River, New Jersey.
I was in high school, but I know it was my first period class that I had a math class with Mr. Chan. That was his name.
I was around 10, so I was in 6th grade, and we just had started. I was in PS90.
I think I was in Mr. Setron's class. I think it was a math class. And I took a pass to go to the bathroom. And when I'm coming back, somebody screams through the hallway, "Yo, did you hear the towers got hit?" I'm like, what?
Cohesion and a sense of togetherness is often a byproduct of turbulent times. That was the case on September 11th, 2001. It remained the case for weeks and even months after. But in time, the unity faded, and in its place, what remained were the seeds of suspicion and mistrust. What is it about these situations that, in the longer term, creates this type of wedge? They create divisions amongst us that splinter out from the very moments that initially brought us together. I suspect it may have something to do with the sense of humanity dissipating and ideological gains becoming the metric by which we dictate priority and measure worth. Is it just a function of time passing? Some period that varies in length from person to person where we realize that we're okay with not caring as much anymore. When enough time passes, the resemblance between the creation of a Volk community by the Nazis in pre-World War II Germany is indistinguishable from white nationalist protests in Charlottesville, Virginia. When enough time passes, the ineptly trained and overzealous acts of the police officers that killed Eric Garner look nothing like the avoidable and relentless police brutality experienced by Rodney King. In time, the foreign policy decisions that led to the military intervention that resulted in unstable regime changes and unintended consequences in countries like Iraq and Libya don't remind us of the same actions taken in countries like Iran, Nicaragua, Venezuela, decades earlier. Maybe that's why history tends to repeat itself. In this special edition episode of the Spun Today Podcast, you'll hear a collection of first-hand experiences from New Yorkers that lived through the events of that tragic day that is forever stamped in our collective history and continues to make an impression on our day-to-day lives. I'm convinced that it may be our generation's duty to continue sharing these stories, to make sure that no amount of time could ever fog our memories, and that we never forget. This first interview is also my first attempt at recording a telephone conversation for the podcast. And the quality isn't the best, especially in the first few seconds where I'm trying to get the levels right. However, it definitely is listenable. And just wanted to give you guys a heads up because there are a couple instances where, being a phone conversation, there's a bit of a lag, and I speak over her, she speaks over me, etc. But it's an important take from the youngest person that I interviewed that experienced 9/11, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on the quality.
I feel special.
Out of everybody that I've interviewed, you're the youngest person. So obviously you were the youngest.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, you're the baby of the podcast.
Yeah.
So
That's good. There's nothing bad.
yeah, so it's a different perspective. So obviously you were the youngest
Yeah.
when it actually happened, And
Yeah.
how old were you on 9/11, 2001? Or like what grade were you in?
So I was around 10, like 10. I was going to be 11 in November. I think I was around like 6th grade.
Okay.
Because I remember that 9/11 happened like 1 year before we moved to DR. So I was in 6th grade, and we just had started. I was in PS90.
Gotcha. Shout out to PS90 in Queens.
Back then. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I remember was that day we were in class. And so we were in class. I don't remember what class we were in, but we were there. And when we found out, it was kind of when everything had already happened. So both towers were already hit. So they kind of already knew that it was a terrorist attack. They really didn't think it was an accident at that point.
Okay.
So they told us. And when we were in class, everybody wanted to know, the teachers, because they already knew it was a terrorist attack. So everybody wanted to know. So they brought in the TVs, like from back in the day when, like the big TVs that were like on the trolley with the VCRs.
You used to like roll it in.
Yeah,
Had the
they
TV
like
on
rolled
top,
it in
the VCR in the middle, and then they would like push it in like in a tall part. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so they pushed it in, and they were like, let's see the news, because nobody really knew. And I guess they had to determine at that time, too, what to do with us, because we were in the middle of class.
Yeah.
So we turned on the TV, and we were watching the news, and, it was kind of everything happening at that point. So when we were watching the TV, like one of the ladies, she was like, like one of the teachers, she was like, does anybody have like parents or anything, or anybody that works in the city? And everybody that did raised their hand and said, and there was one of the kids that I don't know if both of the parents or one of, I don't know if it was the dad or the mom that worked in the Twin Towers, actually.
Oh, damn.
And he was like, yeah, yeah. So, and then when we were watching the TV, that's when they both went down. So, everybody was in shock. And that kid that was in the classroom, he got really bad. Because at that point, nobody knew anything. So he didn't know, where was his parent at. So he got really bad. So when everybody saw that the towers went down, when everybody saw that the towers went down.
Real quick, they don't, like, obviously they couldn't know at that time, like the teachers and stuff, and everybody was trying to figure it out. But it was crazy to, like, just, put it on TV in front of all the little kids. And then, obviously they couldn't know that the towers were going to fall, but that's crazy. That must have been traumatizing, kind of.
Yeah. So, at that time, nobody knew that was going to happen. They just kind of wanted to get information themselves, because, like, who do you call when that's happening, to, like, figure out, like, oh, okay.
And back then,
exact details, nobody really knew.
Exactly. And back then it wasn't like now that, you could just, like, Google it or go on your phone. Plane number 1 was American Airlines Flight 11 out of Boston, Massachusetts. It struck at 8:46 a.m. Plane number 2 was United Airlines Flight 175, also out of Boston, Massachusetts, and it struck at 9:03 a.m. The tower hit by plane number 2 was actually the first to collapse, and it collapsed at 9:59 a.m. The remaining tower, which was the first to be impacted, later collapsed at 10:28 a.m. Also my wife.
Yes. And the teacher's like, are you sure? That was your sister? I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
How did they,
I'll go with her.
You guys were inside, and then what, they made like an announcement or something and said, okay, everybody line up outside, or like how was that? Like, how'd you get from inside to outside?
No. So we were told to stay in the classroom, and then while the parents started, because they really didn't tell any parents to come and pick their kids up. I guess parents were just doing that on their own, because they were afraid.
Yeah.
So when they came, they would tell you. So like when Zoila came, they went and they got me, and they're like, okay, and they showed me Zoila from afar, and they're like, is that your sister? And I'm like, yeah, that's my sister. And they're like, okay, so you could go with her. And everybody was kind of afraid because at that time, when Zoila went to pick me up, there was one of the planes that was still like flying around and nobody knew where it was going to hit.
Yeah. The other plane that Jacey mentioned was one of the other 4 planes that were in play that day. It was United Airlines Flight 93 out of Newark, New Jersey. You all may remember that there was a movie made about it. In short, the passengers realized that their flight was hijacked. They tried contacting their families through cell phones, and some were successful. In doing so, they learned of the attacks in New York earlier that morning. They bravely attempted to take back control of the plane from the hijackers, and the hijackers responded by deliberately crash landing in a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Everyone on board died.
I was just all day watching the news, watching everything that happened, seeing everything that happened. And my dad got home super late because he wasn't in the city when that happened. So he got home like at the nighttime.
And
that day.
Do you remember like when you guys like spoke to him and you knew that he was like good?
I don't remember that. I think at some point he called my mom and he was like, "Oh, you know, I'm okay. I'm just stuck." Because I think he was just one of the people. Because you know how they closed down the bridge and everybody started walking on the bridge. I think he just couldn't get past. You know.
Yeah, he couldn't.
So he called and he told us. Yeah, he told us like, you know, that he was fine. It's just that he was stuck there. So he's like, "I don't know what time, you know, we're gonna get home." But it was pretty much, you know, that. And just like I remember that night, like you could see that like New York was just, it was just like totally black. Like it was just like sad. Like it was a different atmosphere to what New York City is usually, you know, like day to day.
Yeah, it's usually like vibrant and
I guess it really was.
It's like you could feel the
like
whole
it was
mood, like depressed and like the entire
city. Yeah, you could just feel everything. And at that point, you know, like me, I really didn't know about like terrorists or anything. I think that was the first like time that I kind of knew what it was. That I really learned what it was. Like I was never in a place where that ever happened, you know? Yeah. So, like, we kind of knew about it, but we never experienced it that way.
Yeah, definitely not.
So, yeah. But I know it was something really sad, you know, and to hear all the stories. And I actually never went to the World Trade Center.
Yeah, that's all.
To the towers. I never visited, and I was like, God damn, like, I never got to actually go and see it up close, and so it was really sad, you know.
Eso no pasa a nosotros because we take it, like living in the city, like we take it for granted because I never went.
Yeah, like you don't go and visit. Like I always saw it from afar, you know, like if we traveled and we saw it from the bridge and we're like, oh, look at it from afar.
Yeah, like the skyline.
But I never actually went and like was like, okay, I went inside of it or I visited or you know.
Like I have,
and that's sad,
my
you know?
father has like a old school, like a VHS tape of one day when he took me, my brother, and my mom, and we went over there, and he has it on video. But I was like 2 or 3 years old, so I don't remember that. And then, but that was literally the last time.
So you never went either?
No, I never went either, tampoco.
Oh,
except for that time, which obviously I don't remember. And then, I went afterwards.
And there's probably a lot of people,
to the memorial.
Yeah, I haven't gone to the memorial either. I really want to go though.
Yeah, you should.
And to the museum that they did, I really want to go to that.
Yeah.
But I bet you there's a lot of people that never went and actually lived here probably for years and never got the chance to go.
Yep, exactly.
And
that's why after that I wound up going to like the Empire State Building and a bunch of places like that.
Yeah. I know it's good to go and see because you know, you never know, things like this could happen.
Yeah.
And that's something really big, I think, especially like in New York, because even now where I work, like every time that they do a fire drill or any kind of drill, they always mention 9/11. They're always like, you know, remember 9/11, and don't wear heels or don't wear flip-flops because you never know because of, like, look at 9/11.
Yeah, you might have
like,
to run down the stairs.
They always
run to the spot where we have to meet up.
Yeah, like every single time they always mention 9/11, and I'm like, and it's been how many years now, and they still mentioning it. I think that's always gonna stay.
Yeah, that's like the biggest impact.
Especially
that
with
it had,
New York.
Aside from obviously like all the lives lost and stuff, like it changed how like we even like act and operate like in work, in everyday life.
Yeah. And especially, with all the people that died, you never know in what situation you could be in. It's not like you could choose it, It's always something that's going to be remembered.
Yep.
That's really for sure.
You got anything else, Jay's face?
That I was thinking, like I was telling you the other day, that that it's something that, our kids are going to be asking us about. And I think, like, in Facebook, I read one time, I don't know what year it was, but they were like, oh, this is, like, the first year that freshmen are going to learn about 9/11 as something that happened before they were born.
Damn.
And I was like, damn, like, I felt old.
Damn, imagine me.
I was like, yeah. I was like, damn, I'm old. No, but then I was like, it's something, like years pass by and you kind of didn't feel it. And you're like, wow, it's been like 16 years already since that. And
that's crazy.
And it's still a big impact. So, yeah.
If that made the official baby of the Spun Today podcast feel old, then it did happen a very long time ago.
Woo-hoo! Thank you.
All right,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it very much. My father, at 77, is the oldest person that I interviewed for this episode. He has an interesting perspective in that when he first came to this country from the Dominican Republic in the early 70s, he was around and saw much of the World Trade Center construction going on. And he shares that with us here. And if you don't understand Spanish, shame on you.
Exactamente, sí. Y yo llegaba ahí todos los días a las 5
de la mañana.
Sí. A esa hora, por supuesto, estaba todo normal.
Sí.
Yo, con los otros trabajadores, diciendo lo que tenían que hacer, etc. Y de repente, a las 9, ¿verdad?
Sí, era con las 9 y pico.
Sí, 9:15, por ahí. Cuando en el sitio donde estábamos, pues se veía todo perfecto, porque no habían palos ni nada de lo que era el río cerquita ahí.
Pues donde ustedes trabajaban era un parqueadero. Un parqueadero, eran todos como garajes, pero no, que no eran altos.
No, y además los garajes eran 2 o 3 más pequeños. Los demás parqueaban afuera, en el patio. O sea,
como un parking lot grande.
Eso mismo, un parking lot grande. Ajá. Cuando veamos, yo estaba en la parte de atrás, chequeando todo. Y cuando oigo el escándalo allá cerca de la oficina y voy para allá de una vez y veo a Alan que tiene la cabeza así y hace ¡guay! Que había salido de la oficina de él, que parece que le dijeron lo que estaba pasando.
Pero no se oía.
No.
Pero el revolú de gente.
Todo la corredera y todo, ¿sabes? El habladero y claro.
Pero no se oyó el avión chocar.
No.
Eso estaba
en ningún momento muy lejos. ¿Sabes? Y ahí entonces lo que hicimos fue nos subimos por la escalera por dentro y nos subimos al rufo. Y de ahí se veía eso perfectamente ahí. Y ahí fue que se pudo ver cuando el segundo avión impactó la otra torre gemela.
Wow.
Eso sí lo vimos derechito ahí.
Pero cuando subieron la primera vez, ¿como cuánta gente subieron?
Éramos como 12, pues ya había más gente ahí de los mismos que estaban parqueando y cosas. Y subieron algunos de ellos.
Y estaban, cuando subieron se veía mucho humo.
Sí, eso estaba nublado y entonces ahí fue que vino el otro avión y ahí comenzó y impactó.
Pero ¿desde cuándo se vio? Primero cuando se sube se ve mucho humo y están ahí mirando como por
cuánto tiempo. Y la sorpresa fue cuando llegamos y mirando y todo cuando veamos el otro avión que viene derechito.
Se fue de una vez.
Sí.
Subieron y de una vez vino el otro.
Claro, fue cosa de un minuto o dos, diría yo. Y ya fue una cosa terrible.
¿De qué distancia estaba el avión cuando vieron que iba a chocar? ¿Venía de lejos o era nada más...?
No, porque si hubiera venido de lejos, uno dice, bueno, seguro es un avión que pasó por ahí cerca o algo, pensaba uno, ¿no? Pero ese no, ese venía ya cerca de la torre, como de aquí a la calle. A la calle, exactamente. Y venía derechito por la otra que está ahí.
So, cuando ustedes lo vieron por primera vez, sabían que iba a
seguro que sí, definitivamente. Y ahí fue que todo el mundo gritó. Fue terrible.
Wow.
Y nos quedamos un rato ahí arriba y ahí fue cuando habían pasado, yo diría, 15 minutos del primer avión y ahí la torre, la número 1, cuando
cayó.
Sí, exactamente. Y
So,
ahí
estaban ahí, ¿ustedes vieron cuando cayó también?
Sí,
Wow.
claro. Y cuando cayó la segunda también. Fue terrible.
Y después de eso, todo el mundo para la casa.
Sí, una vez Alan dijo, vámonos cerremos todo, no hay trabajo hoy. Y nos fuimos. Entonces yo pensé en David.
Sí.
O sea que David trabajaba por ahí cerca.
Sí, el padre del cuadro.
Ajá. Y ahí fue que yo cogí el carro y fui. Entonces...
Pero tú fuiste a la casa.
No, comencé a llamar primero a David, a ver si lo localizaba.
Sí. Pues yo estaba en la escuela también.
Ajá.
Cuando pasó y para mí estaba en una clase y entró un profesor a decirle al otro profesor que chocó un avión pero pensábamos que era como ha pasado antes como la gente que tienen aviones como de un pasajero.
Ajá, exactamente.
Y que chocan sin querer porque
claro,
no saben,
claro.
o un helicóptero o algo así.
Claro.
Y después se fue y seguimos en la clase.
Sí.
Y después que chocó el segundo,
Ahí fue ya.
vino otra vez el profesor y después nos dijeron que seguro es algún ataque, que todo el mundo se puede ir si quiere, si tiene familia por ahí que llamen, que se vayan. Y ahí yo me salí también y cogí para la casa y estaba llamando también a ti, a David.
Ajá.
Pero no entraban los celulares porque la torre me la tenía en la antena de todos los celulares.
Exactamente.
So, nadie se podía comunicar por mucho tiempo.
Nadie. Y yo no sé cómo fue porque yo seguía insistiendo y en una entra David.
Ujú.
Entonces yo le digo una vez, desesperado, ¿por dónde viene, mijo? Entonces me dijo, voy caminando con una amiga, todo Atlántico.
Sí, pero ya eso era después. Pero primero tú llegaste a la casa porque después yo llegué también a la casa y nos encontramos ahí. Y después seguimos llamando a David, creo. Y comunicamos porque tenía que caminar el puente.
Sí, pues salimos después a encontrarlo.
Sí.
Ajá.
Pero ya eso era matar.
Sí, por supuesto.
O sea que duró más tiempo para comunicarse.
Sí,
no era tan rápido.
sí.
Y después fuimos por Atlante porque él caminó el puente con un amigo.
Exactamente.
Y lo encontramos de este lado.
Era terrible eso, uno pensaba todo lo peor. Porque imagínate, según Dave nos dijo, que yo creo que era como 4 cuadras que estaba trabajando.
Sí, pues donde yo estoy ahora.
O sea, un problema, un peligro además.
Ajá.
Y fue una alegría grande cuando, gracias a Dios, llegamos a la casa.
Sí, estamos todos juntos.
Sí.
Y después de eso, ya, pues, par de meses era nomás eso en las noticias.
Eso era la noticia nada más, de día. Todo se hablaba de eso nada más. Así es.
Me acuerdo esa noche esperando que hable Bush, el presidente, para explicar.
Sí. Y ¿sabes? Desde ese día entonces comenzó todo la gente, o sea, el mismo gobierno a vigilar.
Sí.
Más vigilancia, más policía en la calle, bueno, de todo.
Sí, por todos lados.
Sí. Pero después que eso pasó, hubieron de esa misma gente mala en el mundo que pidieron miedo Y ahí fue que comenzaron más ataques en distintos sitios del mundo.
Sí. Como vieron que pudieron lograrlo.
Algo difícil, ¿verdad? En Nueva York, entonces, en Nueva York.
Y eso que nada más fue uno a la madre de Nueva York porque estamos aquí y fue el más grande, pero también fue el Pentagon en Washington, que cayó un avión ahí, y habían como dos otros, uno que tumbaron, otro que se fue por otro lado.
Pues era un ataque que iban a hacer prácticamente para acabar cerca de la presidencia con todo donde estaba, incluyendo Nueva York. Pero fue terrible. Eso duró 2 o 3 semanas o meses que nada más se hablaba de eso. Y ahí comenzaron los muertos que habían habido, ¿verdad? En esos tiempos.
Como 3,000.
Ajá, exactamente.
¿Y a cuánto tiempo? Pues yo creo que, no me recuerdo bien, pero creo que cancelan la escuela después de eso, para la semana, par de días o para la semana.
Sí, pero...
¿Y trabajo?
No, yo al otro día ya estaba allá ya. La escuela la cerraron más, todas las escuelas públicas que estaban para allá, cerca de... Pues yo llegué a trabajar ahí de los primeros trabajos míos en Chambers Street, donde yo compré ese aparato. Yo trabajaba en Park Place, que queda más pegado de la alcaldía.
¿Tú viste la Torre Gemela cuando lo estaban construyendo? ¿Verdad? Que tú me dijiste.
Claro. Que mira como la Torre Gemela. El parqueadero que hicieron fue de toda la tierra que sacaron del río. O sea, achicaron, el río era grandísimo por ahí. Y lo achicaron de una forma, por ejemplo, esta es el río, y el terreno, y lo pusieron como así. Y todo eso fue parqueo. O sea, toda la tierra que sacaban para hacer el parqueo grandote.
Y la sacaban porque ahí donde entraron la Torre Gemela, en la base.
Exactamente.
Sacaron la tierra de ahí y taparon parte del río.
Para poder conseguir también parqueadero, porque era difícil. En el Bajo Manhattan no es fácil, con tantos edificios y negocios. Así hicieron,
Wow, so tuviste antes de construir la Torre Gemela y después viste cuando cayeron.
Sí. Yo llegué ahí en el carro, por ahí mismo, Riverside Drive. Yo fui a Riverside Drive, que ahí llegaba yo. El Park Place quedaba cerquitica de Riverside Drive, como 2 o 3 cuadras. Yo llegué ahí en el carro, así, allá al trabajo.
Wow.
Pero fue terrible, son un momento, ¿sabes? Una cosa que nadie esperaba eso.
No.
Pero así es la vida mía. Y yo la preocupación que tenía era cuando que David no nos encontrábamos,
No se podía comunicar.
Eso, cuando nos vimos, carajo, fue una alegría enorme.
Sí.
Pero así es la vida.
All right, so tell me what you remember from that day, from 9/11. What happened? You said you were 22.
I was 22 years old, and I was working in downtown Manhattan by the seaport. And I was a records clerk at a law firm, a big law firm. They did a lot of patent laws. They did a lot of their clients were like big corporations. So,
and it was downtown. Do you remember like the address?
It was downtown by Water Street. So
that's like by the seaport.
Mm-hmm, by the seaport. So
that's the building that has the cubes. Like it looks like ice cubes. The building, like the windows and stuff. Or
no, it's a glass building.
Oh, okay.
It's a big glass building. They had a few floors in a glass building by Water Street, and I don't remember I don't remember.
I always thought for some reason, like when I see it's like a black building that has cubes around there, I always thought for some reason that's where you used to work.
Is it a black building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
they meant like ice cubes.
No, it looks kind of like the windows.
I think that might be it. I always can
like
tell.
Like a grid, kind of.
I can always tell that building because the building next to it, which where I really worked at, was a gray building.
Okay.
It was a gray building next door. So the reason I'm saying it was a big law firm is because they had a few floors in that glass building, and it was like high up, somewhere like in the 40th floor or something like that. And then they had the records department in the building next door, which is where I worked at, on the second floor. So
And you used to have to go between both buildings?
Well, I normally worked in the gray building, but that week I had to cover somebody in the glass building,
which is the higher up one.
Yeah. Like Dad says, I've always worked really hard, and my bosses recognize that, and they give me extra work.
Yeah.
No, but
give the word to the workforce.
Yeah, exactly.
Shit to me too.
So it was September 11, 2001, and this was when New York had like bare minimum security guards everywhere, and it was like one security guard in the building who I never looked at him, he never looked at me. There was like no relationship,
Yeah.
I just walked into my building, they never stopped me, and I went up to the second floor.
It was like a different world. Before 9/11, it was a different world.
It was.
I don't think we've even realized like the impact of it.
It was. It totally was.
Because it was like a lot more lax than, like, security was just like, not for show, but it wasn't. It's like now it's like proactive security. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're definitely like watching out for stuff. Before it was just basically a warm body sitting in the front of the building.
So you don't know
basically who you would ask information to.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a security desk how it is now. So I walk in.
Real quick, I took I remember once in high school I cut class one day with a couple friends, and we went to. One of them wanted to take he had dropped out of high school like the year before, and he wanted to take a security guard test. And me, Esrin, and him went with him, and we just signed up, and we were like, fuck it, we cut school, let's just take the course anyway. And we wound up, it was like a whole day course. It was like staying in school.
That's fun.
But after that, like I got to they literally said, okay, you passed, go to the front desk, and they printed out a certificate, and with that you could apply to like any security job. That's how funny. I was like 17, I think, or some shit.
Nobody cared. Nobody asked you for anything. Yeah. So
you didn't know him. He didn't know you, the security guard.
Yeah. So I'm just
like setting,
just mentioning how it used to be, and then so I go up to the second floor, and I started work I think like around 8:30. I was probably like a couple of minutes late or something like that. I don't know, but if I was, it wasn't by much, but. All right, so I got there like at 8:30, and then I'm starting my morning, and then all of a sudden, this kid I remember, he was like one of those like General Souls kind of people. He was always like very like soft spoken. So he walks in and he's like, "Oh, a plane hit the Twin Towers," and he looked like shooken up, and I was like. Yeah, this guy's probably talking shit. I don't know what he's on right now or whatever. So I just keep going on with my business, and then somebody else comes in and says, "Oh, a plane hit the Twin Towers," and then it starts spreading, and then it takes a couple of minutes for like the information to start circulating, and then
and it was 2001, so it wasn't even wasn't iPhone time yet.
No, it wasn't iPhone time. You log in the mornings, and
there was no Twitter. There was no There's nothing like as immediate as now.
Right.
Like now you hear of anything like in what happened in Virginia. Like you literally type the word Virginia and videos pop out.
Well, you already get alert. You get an alert on your phone. But back then I had like one of the early Nokias with the small screen.
Yeah. Which wasn't a smartphone.
No.
For any millennial listeners.
And the internet was very new, so and I was young, so it's not like I was going on there to read the news or anything like that. I remember I used to like chat to one of my coworkers, when I used to come in, and it was like through email. I wasn't on the internet as much. So then all of a sudden, everybody, whenever there's a panic, regardless of what it is, people just get nervous and they just start bouncing around. Yeah. Basically looking for direction or whatever. So I'm seeing, what's going on in there, and I'm just like, man, is this really happening? Did a plane hit the Twin Towers? And I was just like, I don't know why everybody's so nervous, because I think a couple of months before, a Yankee was flying up a little plane and he crashed into a building. So I was like, oh, some idiot
or something.
Huh?
Like he clipped it or something.
Yeah, something like that. And I thought that's probably what happened.
That was a lot of people first impression at my school too. Like the teacher at my school, a teacher came in to tell our teacher, and then the teacher told us, and he was like, it's probably just some rich guy that was like coked up and hit a plane or something. Clipped the building.
That's all I thought.
Yeah.
And then like I said, I had to cover in the other building, and I'm not liking the energy in the floor. And
so at this point you're in the second floor building?
I'm in the second floor building.
Okay.
So I'm not liking the energy, and I'm just seeing a whole bunch of aimless people wandering around speculating what's going on, and I'm just like, all right, let me go to the other building and see what's going outside in the street to see if I get a little bit of information on my way over to the other building. And when I'm walking, I just see like I remember there was like a lady crying and a whole bunch of guys just like frozen looking up
in the street
by my building. And then I'm looking at everybody, and everybody looks again like really like shooken up and nervous and sad. And then I look up and I see like the building is on fire, and I'm like, oh snap, that looks pretty bad. And then
how close are you? Like how?
I would say like maybe like a good eight small blocks away, maybe. Damn. Something like that. That was pretty close. I got a good view of it.
Especially like those buildings, like they're so high up, you can see them. They seem closer than what they are, even if you're far away. Like it's the skyline. You can see it from like Queens. You can see the skyline. So imagine 8 blocks away, you're like right there. Especially those two huge buildings. I mean, in downtown Manhattan, the buildings aren't that high as Midtown. Mm-hmm. So I see everybody panicking outside in the street, and this is before knowing it's a terrorist attack or anything. I'm just sort of like, all right, so if I stay out here, it's just a whole bunch of panic people. So let me just go upstairs, see if I could get a better view, or let me just actually no. I said let me just go upstairs away from like all this commotion. And so I go upstairs and I start setting up in my room. There was no windows in the office that I was covering. And then before you went out, did you think like, because at that time you still didn't think it was a terrorist attack?
No,
you didn't have like reasons to think that, but you felt
everything was peaceful that year.
Yeah. And did you feel like it's obviously it's fucked up, whatever, but it's a fire, they'll put it out and whatever?
Yeah,
that's what I would have thought too.
That's exactly what I thought. And that year was Bush's first term, right? In 2001,
I think so.
Or was it his second?
I think it's his first.
It's his first term, but I mean, was it his first year?
I looked it up. Thanks, Google. And 9/11 did happen during George W. Bush's first year as president. He was inaugurated on January 20th, 2001. 8 months later, we had 9/11.
The rich guy who used to own a baseball team, whose dad was the president.
Yeah. And
the Al Gore elections or whatever, everybody was pissed off. But that Al Gore's here in New York, that Al Gore lost his seat or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was just some ex-president's son running the country, and he was almost like a lovable idiot in the office. You know what I mean? This was before any problems were going on. The economy wasn't that bad.
Yeah, like a lot of the negative connotations that Trump has now, like in terms of like incompetence, but minus the like hatred and bigotry and
the maliciousness. And there was nothing like times was good. The economy was good.
Yeah. Because it was just after Clinton.
Yeah, the economy was good. I was 21. It was like the end of the summer. It was like early September.
Yeah.
So it was just like the perfect time in New York. And I forgot why I mentioned that.
That Bush wasn't president. It was his first year.
Yeah. So You know, everything was pretty much lighthearted at that point. So then my coworker goes over to me.
So you went up already?
I went up. I'm like on the 40 something floor. And he's like, yo, you know, the Twin Towers, you know, got hit, and they're saying that it might be a terrorist attack. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, all right, let's go see if we can find a conference room and try to see if we get a good view. So then
there was no TVs and shit in the office? There was no TVs and shit in the office?
No, this was, again, 2001. I don't think there were a lot of flat screens back then, right?
No.
Or if there were, if flat screens existed, it was like a new technology.
True. Yeah.
So anyways, so I'm like, let's go look for a conference room. And we look at the conference room. Are you going to edit this a little bit?
Yeah. No.
Okay, good. So we go to the conference room. What?
Like edit what?
No, I'm just like the conversation because I feel like I'm rambling.
No, go ahead. It doesn't matter.
So we go to the conference room and we're looking at the building and we kind of like see a little bit, but we can't get a good view of the building. I think we saw like a little bit of flame or something on one side, and then me and him start talking and
a lot of smoke at that time. Yeah.
No, there was no smoke yet. So he's like a jittery guy. I think you remember him, Francois. He was like a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might have been slow or something.
Yeah.
Not might have been. He had something wrong with him. Yeah. So he was like very jittery, and he was like this tall, wiry guy, and he was like, you know, jumping around and stuff. And then, you know, so me and him are talking, and then I look back again, and all I see is the windows like completely white, and I'm like, oh shit, something went down. I don't know what's going on. So I tell him, you know, let's circle the floor. You go to the left, I go to the right, and then we'll meet halfway and make sure that, you know, we tell anybody who's in their office to go downstairs. Mm-hmm. There was one person there, I think. It was this one attorney that was there. And then we all go down, and then that's
when the elevator?
We took the elevator down, and then we go down to the main floor.
And there was at this time, there was still no, like, announcements, like the security guard in the building, like, nothing?
No, this guy barely had a pulse.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, all the firemen in downtown Manhattan were running over there. Like, I'm pretty sure, you know, they weren't busy trying to communicate to the other buildings. You know, I'm not sure. I don't know. Or even if they had the manpower to communicate to all the buildings.
True.
But all I know is that nobody told us anything.
And this was a new scenario.
Yeah.
Like now they do.
They have protocols.
I'm sure they do it at your job too, like fire drills and all that shit. The fire department comes. They make sure they tell us where to walk in case something happens. Yeah. Blah blah blah.
They have it down to a point where like they're like, if you get chemical poisoning and you walk outside the building, you're gonna have to take off all your clothes, and then they're gonna. Have you heard that instruction?
No.
The fire warden now says that you know, we shouldn't leave the building right away, because if we do leave the building and it's a chemical attack, we're gonna have to get completely naked and we're gonna have to be hosed down in order for us to get back into the building. I'm like, if there's a chemical attack, that's like the least of our problems.
You know, the last thing you want to do is get back to work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're like, we're all dead at that point. So then you
guys walking around the building.
So we walk around the building, we grab the attorney, and then I don't like seeing people crying, especially when things are bad, because I'm just like, yo,
it's not helping.
It's not helping. Like, we're just sitting around fucking crying, and they could drop other shit on us. So I'm just like trying to gather, you know, like, what are we gonna do? So then I see people in the street like all like disoriented. They must have like went through some shit.
How was that elevator ride down?
Quiet. Nobody
nobody said shit.
Nobody said shit. And
so you walk around.
We walk down, and then you know, we didn't know who the attorney was or whatever, so we just left. But me and Francois, we knew each other, so I was like, listen, you know, let's go back to the office and see what's going on. I see everybody like in white, and like, you know, they all look scared,
like that powder,
and confused, with all that powder on them.
And you tell him, let's go back to the second floor office.
Let's go back to the second floor office, and we go over there. And then when I get over there, I see a couple of other coworkers of mine that we used to like hang out during the time, so we were like friends. And I was like, yo, listen, let's all gather all our stuff, and then, you know, we'll all leave together back to to
back home.
Yeah, back home. And then obviously by the time I went over, like I don't remember, but I think I was walking, people were crying and stuff like that, and then people were saying that the Twin Towers fell, you know. So
did they have
I knew
already?
Yeah.
So then, when did you didn't see like when the second plane hit or hear it or anything? Like that?
No. I just saw that the white smoke in the conference room,
and that's probably like when the other one hit. Then
I don't know, but I know I saw a whole bunch of white smoke, and then
because the white smoke was after they collapsed, and they collapsed after both of them were hit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yeah. They both must have hit, and they collapsed almost at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So then, you know, after I gather my stuff and I look for a couple more friends, you know, I turned around and I'm just like, I asked somebody for the original group of friends, you know, where they were, and they were like, oh, they left a while ago already. And I was like, all right, fuck this, so we're leaving too. And then I remember it was me and two people, and we crossed the bridge.
The Brooklyn Bridge, right?
The Brooklyn Bridge. We weren't too far from there. And
I remember when I left school, I was trying to call you because I knew you worked in the city, but I don't know where exactly. And like none of the cell phones worked or anything like that. I was trying to call you, mom and dad. And then I went home, and I think dad was the first one home. And like we kept trying to get in touch with you, or maybe mom was home already too. But I think I got home before them. I'm not sure, but I know I think you were like the last one that we spoke to. And then when we finally got in touch with you, we knew we had to drive to Brooklyn because you were gonna walk the bridge.
Yeah. I finally communicated, like I finally got in communication with you guys, and I told you that I was like going to Brooklyn, but again, like during that time, like I wasn't really scared. You know what I was scared of was walking the Brooklyn Bridge because it always scared me. You know, like crossing the bridge, walking over a bridge, you know, because of the height. But at that point, like I wasn't scared or anything. I was just like, all right, let me just get home. And I knew you guys were okay because none of you guys worked in the city.
Yeah.
And I knew I was okay, so I was like relieved at that point. And I was like, you know, we're all okay, you know. So I was just trying to get home, and I was just thinking about like, damn, this is gonna be a long ass walk from Manhattan all the way to Queens. So when I got through to you guys, I was just like super happy, like, oh great, I don't have to walk.
Yeah.
And then you guys picked me up and a friend of mine, right? And then we went.
It was like a girl.
Yeah. And we went to get you know, we came home, I changed, and then we dropped her off.
Did you had the white shit on you too?
No, because remember I was up on the second floor.
Yeah.
Maybe I had a little bit, but I dusted it off. It wasn't like, you know, a lot of it didn't get on me. So then we dropped her off, and I remember my eye was bothering me because 2 years earlier I had a paper cut in my eye, and that takes years to heal.
Yeah.
Because you're always blinking, so it opens up the wound. So I guess the dust and all that, like
fucked it up.
Yeah,
irritated
messed it up. So I was just like, I have to go to the doctor and get, you know, eye drops. So I went to the
same day. The same day.
Yeah, same day. So I made the appointment with the doctor, and I went over there, and you know, he said, well, you know, he started talking to me. That's all everybody was talking about.
What doctor?
The eye doctor on Liberty and like past Lefferts, like 123rd. And I guess he was being a doctor, and he was just sort of like, you know, making sure I was okay. And he was like, you know, are you okay? Aren't you nervous? And I was like, I remember I was just like smiling a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, no, everything's okay. You know, it was crazy. You know, I didn't really see much. You know, he switched the subject and started talking about my, you know, my name, because David Ortiz. And back then, David Ortiz, you know, was playing baseball. And, you know, but basically, I think I was in shock because all I remember doing after that was smoking a lot of weed all fall and all winter.
Yeah, I remember that. Was that when Steve came from Florida too?
That was...
Or the summer after that?
Yeah, after that summer.
They spent a while there? Yeah.
After that summer, yeah. So,
after that, all the coverage was like just 9/11 shit, nonstop.
So I came home, and I just remember like all of this was like all 9/11, and it was everything was all 9/11 on TV, and it was all speculation. You know, they were saying like, I think Osama's name was being mentioned, and Al Qaeda. But at that point, like, I don't think any American knew who the fuck those two groups were, who that group was, or who Osama was.
Like, it wasn't in like the zeitgeist. It
wasn't, and there wasn't a lot of information on them. So it was like basically like CNN and all the other channels who, you know, nowadays you have a lot of news channels, but back then it wasn't as many. But everybody wanted to be a news channel, so it was just like a lot of like unprepared reporters trying to report a story about 2 buildings falling, and we don't know anything about what happened.
Yeah, and everybody, I remember waiting, like anticipating Bush's speech, because at that time it's like, and even now, like if something like that would go down, like the country looks to the president for, like, all right, you guys have the answers, tell us what the fuck is going on.
Right. So at that point, like I said,
especially at that time when information is less scarce, it's more scarce.
Yeah. Everybody was unhappy with the fact that, you know, Al Gore lost the election. So then at that point I was just like, oh boy, look, everything was okay. You know, this guy won the election. We did. And, you know, I was sort of like thinking like, you know, it's only going to be 4 years. You know, he's a bumbling idiot. There's nothing going on in the world, whatever. But then September 11th happened. And then I remember I'm just like, all right, we got to wait for the president to talk. What's he going to say? And then he started talking about like he was gonna wage war. Yeah, on Islamic terrorism or something like that, or something about, I forgot what his speech was, but it was very harsh on some like shit's about to go down now. You know,
I'm gonna try to find it and drop it into the episode. Okay. I don't remember it though.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America, with the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow. Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight, I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
Here we go. Well, all I remember is after I heard him say that, I was just like, oh,
like, shit's about to get real.
Yeah, because I was just like, back then, before we started like the war on terror, it was basically like, all right, a bad guy did something, you fucking grab the bad guy and you lock him up, and that's it, it's over. But he was on some like, we're gonna go after nations or whatever that support terrorism.
It was more instead of like a clear objective, it opened it up to like going after an ideology, which is a never-ending shit.
Right. And then I was just like, wow, this is bad, and this isn't gonna end for a long time, because I just remember thinking that, and back then I was smoking pot, so I just remember like getting high, thinking like
going off into tangents and shit. Going off into like tangents.
All I remember was thinking was, all right, this isn't gonna be one of those like clear cut, like 1993. There were guys trying to blow up the Twin Towers, and they got arrested and they're in jail.
Yeah.
This was like, the president's talking about war.
It's gonna be an open-ended thing.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh man, this is some fucked up shit.
And he's the one behind the wheel, as opposed to Al Gore, which seemed more like composed and presidential.
Yes, that's exactly what I felt. And I was just like, this bumbling idiot is talking about war, and this isn't going to end for a long time, and this is going to change the course
of everything.
And that's what I was, that's what I was thinking. And then I was just like so disappointed. And remember, we went to the Rage Against the Machine concert.
Yeah.
So I was listening to them a lot, and I was just like so anti-government at that point, because I'm just like, these idiots are going to war on a religion and an ideology, which is like, half the planet, and it shouldn't have gone down like this, because Al Gore wouldn't have taken that stance.
True. Yeah.
Al Gore was a pussy even when he was campaigning. That was his problem. He was like, not an emotional guy or whatever. And Bush was
almost too measured.
Yeah, Bush was like all, like
cowboy.
Yeah, fuck this, let's blow him up. Yeah. And that's what I remember about like I that day and the following day, just like being very like, disappointed and sad about like where things were going.
It definitely changed like the course of everything.
It did. It definitely did. This is something I was thinking about today because I knew you were going to record. But this is, you remember that analogy that Obama said about being a president is sort of like
football,
not football, but like sort of like a ship at sea, where like you hope to
turn it like 1 or 2 degrees,
one or 2 degrees, and then eventually it'll end up in a different. It'll change the course of the ship, but not by much. And
it doesn't seem like much initially, but in the long term, that 1 or 2 degree difference is like
is huge. Yeah. So I was thinking about that back in 2001, where if Al Gore was in office, I don't think we would have gone into those wars, and we ended up going into those wars. And 15 years later, there's still the talk about like hating Muslims, and a lot of people, like including our friends and you know, talk about to this day, like, you know, these fucking Muslims with their ideology and so forth. And it's funny to see like somebody like Trump now in office who's still talking about, you know, negatively about groups, but now he's expanding it to like blacks and Hispanics.
Yeah.
But it's that same that ship that was steered a couple of degrees. Now all of a sudden, you know, more people have problems with that kind of ideology because now he's talking about, you know,
he exacerbated it more.
Yeah, now
and like Obama reined it in afterwards.
He did rein it in,
and then it just got
Obama, you know, to, you know, not enough is said about his credit of absorbing a lot of racism because, you know, he took the high road on a lot of things, you know, where he could have been snapping like Trump.
Yeah.
You know, when they were calling him a liar during his national address, and you know, just all the races. I mean, even Trump when he was asking for his
proof of birth certificate
and so forth, they always took everything with a high road, and you know,
and just like the I remember if it was Mitch McConnell, I want to say, like whoever the leader of the Republican Party was, like the House, they literally said our objective for the next 3 years is to make sure that nothing
it was
he puts forward
also Agent Orange. What's his name? Damn, I forgot his name. That hates him. He was a heavy smoker. I forgot his name, but he was also very tanned.
Yeah,
he was orange. Look, you notice how Trump is not as tanned anymore. But
you know that's supposedly makeup that he puts on and everything.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
weird though. Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you know, he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
He's a celebrity. He's not a politician, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, are you surprised when you see the Kardashians always putting makeup on and you know coming out with their like colored eyebrows and stuff like that? Like that's just what they do. Mm-hmm. But you know, again, back to what I'm saying. Like, you know, what Obama said, like, you know, definitely has relevance where. Now you have this president in here, you know,
who's not measured, he's not composed,
and he's still talking that hate shit about
and,
you know,
and at a higher level too.
Yeah, blame groups for you know the problems that we have in this country and so forth. Like back then in 2001, I think that was very responsible to say like, all right, Islam, we're going after Islam. Like you know, not all of them are terrorists, you know, and. Again, like I said, 16 years later, we have President Trump over there, except now he's widening it up to a lot of other minorities.
Mexicans, Hispanics, blacks, Muslims still.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about today.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
Well, that's it.
There you go. Thanks. Right. Okay, Ms. Velez.
Hello.
So, say something. Let me just make sure it's working.
Hello.
All right. So on 9/11, what do you remember from that day? And like, where were you? How old were you, if you remember?
Oh, what year was that? I think I was in high school.
Junior year? Senior year? Junior year?
Damn.
For me, I think it was junior.
Junior?
Yeah.
So it was either for me junior or sophomore year.
Okay.
But I know it was my first period class and I had a math class with Mr. Chan. That was his name. And I love math, but I just didn't love it at first period.
Yeah, in the morning.
So,
too early for that.
So I asked to be excused to use the restroom. And as soon as I stepped out of the hallway, I saw my friend Louis, and he told me if I saw the Twin Towers, and I told him no, I didn't, and he was like, "Oh, come with me." He goes, "The Twin Towers are on fire," but I thought he was joking because he's normally a jokester. So I followed him into the staircase of a corner of our high school. On the 5th floor, and as I looked out the window, I just saw one of the tall buildings, and it just looked like a puff of smoke on top of it. And
what high school?
New Trick High School. So
Okay.
it's by Fort Hamilton.
In Brooklyn.
Down that, but it's in what is that called? Bensonhurst.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And all I saw was like a puff of smoke, and I only saw one building. So I told him, I said, "Are you sure it's not the Empire State Building and not the Twin Towers? Because there's only one building and it's on fire."
So at that point, it had already fallen.
And I didn't realize that because. So I
Was it black smoke or
Yeah.
like that white? Okay.
No, it was just like a dark black smoke. And I was just like, I was in high school, so I was kind of naive and being like, I was just like, oh my gosh, man, that's crazy. That was my only thought. And then I was just thinking, oh, I get to go back to my class and announce it, because I didn't know how serious it was. So I would go back into my class, and I just kind of said, oh, by the way, the Twin Towers are on fire. And my teacher
To the teacher or like the whole class?
To the whole class, including the teacher. And my teacher just was like, whatever, Miss
what the hell are you
Velez,
talking about?
sit down. And no more than 2 seconds after I said that, over the loudspeaker, it came on, and they said that there was a terrorist attack on America, and 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers. And all I remember was looking at my teacher's face, and he was in shock. And I didn't, we as the students in the class, we were young, so we didn't really understand exactly
like the impact of what was going on.
What was going on. So we were just like, okay. But by the reaction of our teacher's face, we knew it was something serious.
Yeah.
But we didn't know how serious. And after that period, everything was chaos in the school. Teachers looked.
Did you guys finish the rest of that class or that period, or?
We did, but after that happened, it kind of is a blur. All I know is that no one could concentrate. After that, the teachers all looked kind of panicked. And all I knew is that I was trying to find my way to my best friend, because after that I had gym. So I made my way to the gym, and it was chaos. All I saw were children crying, like my students crying and teachers crying and other teachers consoling. And my gym period became like just an area for people to gather instead of like classes, presuming like as usual. So I just took that time. I actually found my best friend, and she said, listen, her mom called the school and said she wants her daughter, myself, and another friend of ours, because we all lived around the corner from each other, to go home. So
She called your friend? Like she had a cell phone? Or?
No, she got in touch with the school.
Okay.
And the school got in touch with Adiba. And then Adiba found myself, and she's found our friend Levon. And she said, listen, my mom said we got to go, so we need to go. And I was like, all right, we're leaving school early, then that's fine. And when we left school, we were heading, the trains weren't working, so...
How far was your commute? Like,
normally our commute is about an hour.
Damn.
So to get to our school, we would have to take the bus to the train and transfer to another train. So we had to take 2 trains and a bus.
What trains do you remember?
I would take the 41 bus to the 2 train or the 5 to Atlantic, and then transfer to the D train or the M during that time, any of those to 79th Street, New Trick Avenue. That was the stop. So, but being that the trains weren't working, we had to get on the bus.
Did they say the trains weren't working, or you guys like went in and waited for a while?
I forgot. I believe it was one of the teachers or one of the security guards at our school that warned us that there was no trains running at the time. And that our best bet to getting home was to get on the bus. So I know that when we got to the bus stop, it didn't even look like a bus stop. It just looked, the entire street was covered with people, and buses weren't stopping, and they were just passing by us.
Were they full or empty?
Some were full, some were empty. Everyone just looked confused. There were a lot of adults there.
Yeah.
And we could see the smoke and the debris from the towers falling in our area.
Damn.
And when I started seeing that, and slowly it was like hitting me like something serious is going on, but we didn't know, how serious it was. We somehow got into a bus, and as soon as I got home, it was a long bus ride home, but as soon as we got home, I just remember opening the door and seeing my oldest sister Rosemary sitting on the couch. So
you want to go into your house instead of
I just went to my house because Diva lived around the corner.
Oh, okay.
So we just knew that we had to get home.
Yeah.
So when I went home, I saw my oldest sister Rosemary sitting on the couch watching TV and just crying. And as soon as she saw me, she ran to me and gave me a hug. And she was just like, "It's so horrible, Janet." And that's when I saw it on TV. And they just was showing how...
like the coverage of what happened?
Yeah, the coverage of the building, of the people falling, and the plane. Oh, it was just... And that's when it hit me. Like, oh my goodness, like something serious happened where so many people, like... are dying and are injured. And so I was just, I at that point I just was kind of shocked, and I didn't know what to feel, and I just had like a flood of emotions and thoughts of, oh my God, is my family okay? Like that's when it became real to me. And I was like, okay. And so me and my sister started planning out, where's Michael, where's Rosa, where's my sister, where's my brother, where's my mom, my dad, my aunts.
Nobody else was home at that time?
No one else was home. It was just us. So we decided, and our phones weren't working. And so we decided to go to the corner payphone and try to reach some of our family members. And as we went to the payphones, we were like trying to call. And it was just like
that's something else that you don't see much anymore.
Oh, like payphones, right?
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
They were everywhere, and now they're practically nowhere that you can really find them. And every here and there in the subway, I see them. But
for younger listeners, those were phones that were in the street that you put a quarter in and you could use like a landline.
Public phones in the streets, phone booths. Yeah. They don't have that anymore, so. While we were calling, I happened to look across the street and I saw this morena walking, and she was covered in ashes and dust, and her face, it just looked dead. And that's when I think that image of seeing her and seeing like just her looking lost and confused and zoned out, that bothered me so much, because it just looked like she saw something horrible and unimaginable, and we couldn't figure it out because we're just seeing what we're seeing on TV, and we weren't even there. So my sister was on the phone speaking to I believe it was my dad, just to make sure he was okay, because he worked out in the city. And at that time, I had no concept of where exactly the World Trade Center was compared to my dad's job in Harlem,
Sure.
So I didn't know the difference. I just knew it was in the city, and I wanted to make sure my dad was okay.
That's how I was with David. Like, I knew he worked in the city, but I didn't know where or how close or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, I don't remember really much of the rest of the day. I just knew that everyone that all of my family were safe, and that's kind of what mattered to me. But just the images on television,
just over and over,
just
like
over, yeah, it's just like
days and weeks
it
after
in
that.
our head. That really bothered me, and I remember going, coming home from school that week, later on in that week or the previous week or after, and just remembering a guy reading the newspaper, and you just see the Twin Towers and the smoke, and he's just reading, and then he just
like on the
breaks
cover of the
down.
paper?
Yeah, on the cover of the paper, and he just breaks down and starts sobbing on the 2 train, like a few stops before the last stop, uncontrollably, and that just sent out like a ripple effect of sobs throughout the entire cart.
Damn.
It was like no one was saying anything, and you just heard cries.
And like everybody knew what it was about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in my school is pretty diverse. Even though it was in a very white neighborhood, we had whites, blacks, Hispanics, and we also had a lot of Arabs, which were, it never seemed like a racist school until that happened.
Then everybody started turning on people.
And then everyone who was friends with one of the Arab kids, like, just completely blocked them off. And we had to have, because there were a lot of students who had parents and uncles who worked at the World Trade Center, and so they all lost there were a lot of students who lost, so they had to send therapists into our school, and we had like therapy sessions during class for the following month.
Wow.
And during that class, they allowed students to express themselves, and there were a lot of the Arab kids who were just saying how sad and hurt they are by the events, and also by how people have been treating them in the school and in their neighborhoods, and
they had absolutely nothing to do with it, but like Arabs as a whole, like they got the brunt of like everything.
Exactly.
Even to this day, like people always like look twice.
And it was that really bothered me, just to see the separation, and all of a sudden it just became, they became segregated, and
that was like the beginning of the divide.
Yeah, and we were all like friends with them. Everyone was friends, and everybody was friendly, and then they were just sad because everyone started treating them differently, and then people were voicing their opinions about how they feel, what they think, or it was a hard time, because I was still trying to understand fully what exactly happened, and then also dealing, even though I wasn't physically there, we were still impacted by the events that happened,
It was like our city,
Yeah, exactly. It happened to us. And I remember I wrote a poem. I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
After because it just bothered me so much, and I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't understand why we were attacked, and why were people so angry.
If you find it, let me know, and if you want, I'll read it on the podcast. It might be
a little religious.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what was I? It was like 16.
Yeah, 16, 17.
There. Yeah, so I just had started going to church and found God, and so I was like very much into all of that, but I was at the same time completely confused,
lost, and looking for direction.
Yeah, exactly, and that really didn't help,
No.
So that time was just very dreary and sad, and for the few years even after that, because it was just like even till now, every year they play the memorial, and I was getting it in school, in the neighborhood, in church. Everybody was talking about it, because one of the ladies, the last survivors that they pulled out of the rubbish, she went to my church.
Oh, damn.
And so she was sharing her story, and she was on TV and all of that stuff, and so we were constantly.
What kind of things would she say about it?
She was, that experience for her was how what brought her to church, and made her and began her journey like seeking God and seeking Jesus, because there was she said that there was a voice there when I believe she was going down, because she worked in the World Trade, and she was going down the stairs when the tower fell, and it was just silence, and she was there for hours, and then there was someone there, I believe she said his name was Michael, who was talking to her and holding her hand throughout the whole thing, and saying that we're gonna get you out. She was
like trapped, like
she was trapped under the rubble, and she said that she heard a voice saying she was talking to someone, and saying, and he was just encouraging her to keep, holding on, that she's gonna get out. They're gonna definitely get her out, and they actually did get her out. And when she got out, she was asking for the guy. And they're like, there was nobody here. Like, we just got here. There was no one else here.
Damn.
And because of that got her to start going to church. So it was everywhere.
That's awesome.
No matter where we were going, I heard stories for years about what happened at 9/11 and how it affected them. How, so it was just, I think it's a very sad time, and it was also very disturbing at the same time. So I really don't like to think about it. Like, everyone talks about sharing 9/11 stories, like, oh man, I was alive.
Sorry for asking you to do this.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm just saying, like, now, it's been years, so it's like easier to talk about. But during that time, I just felt like a lot of people were just using it as like a podium just to speak.
Plus, it was like everywhere. You were like inundated with it, like all around 24/7.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was and what I was experiencing during that time.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Ya estamos grabando. So, Yudy Rosa, no. Okay.
Excuse me, Azurdia.
Yudy Azurdia. So, dime, ¿a dónde tú estabas when 9/11 happened?
Bueno, ese día yo recuerdo que me levanté temprano, llamé a mi mamá, que vivía aquí en Queens. Yo vivía en ese entonces en Toms River, New Jersey, y la llamé para saludarle, saber cómo se encontraba. Estaba hablando con ella en el teléfono. Y me dice, oh, Yudy, espérate un momento que tengo otra llamada de mi hermana que me llama de Massachusetts.
Y ella estaba enferma, ¿right?
Sí, en ese tiempo ella ya estaba enferma, so yo la llamé para saber cómo ella estaba, cómo había amanecido, porque le dieron su quimioterapia el lunes. Yo recuerdo que ese día era martes. Y me dice, espérate un momento que tengo otra llamada. Y yo le dije, ok, contestó y luego pasó como 2 minutos y me dice, ay, Yudy, pon la noticia que pasó algo en aquí en New York, en Manhattan. Y yo le dije, wow, ¿qué pasó? Dice, me dijeron que parece que hubo, no sé, un accidente, un avión se estrelló con la Torre Gemela. Bueno, yo puse la noticia. Cuando yo prendí el televisor, totalmente quedé confundida, no sabía qué estaba pasando. Me dio un dolor tan grande porque yo pensaba que era mentira, que era como una película, un sueño, una pesadilla. Yo dije, wow, ¿y qué estará pasando?
Para todo el mundo estaba como en shock.
Yo quedé, wow, no puedo creer esto. Bueno, me senté a ver la noticia. Cuando yo estaba viendo la noticia, luego veo el segundo avión que viene y se estrella con la otra torre. Yo digo, no, pero ¿qué será lo que está pasando? Yo pensaba que era un accidente, pero ya el segundo,
de ahí todo el mundo se dio cuenta
ahí
que era
yo dije, no, algo tiene que estar, eso no puede ser un accidente, eso es a propósito. Bueno, yo estaba sola en la casa. Lo que hice fue que me monté en mi carro y salí de la casa. Porque tenía miedo, porque dijeron que había otro avión que estaba desaparecido y no sabía a dónde iba. Y yo dije, oh my God. Yo sé que yo estaba en New Jersey, pero a la vez me sentía cerca de New York también. Yo dije, uno nunca sabe. Cuando yo salí afuera, que me monté en el carro, veo que hay un helicóptero. Y yo dije, no, Dios mío, no puede ser que esto se va a estrellar aquí también. Porque uno, cuando pasa algo así, no sabe cómo reaccionar. Lamentablemente, eso fue algo que en mi vida, yo primera vez que escuché que fue un atentado de terrorismo. Uno no le pasa por la mente eso. Fue algo nuevo para mí.
Yeah.
Y me imagino que para todo el mundo en ese tiempo.
Uno no hallaba qué pensar.
Cuando eso pasó, que yo vi que esos dos aviones se estrellaron contra la torre, me dolió. Pero cuando esas torres se colapsaron, fue como que me puse a llorar histéricamente, porque fue algo que yo crecí viendo desde pequeña. Acabaron, lo destruyeron. Y saber que había tanta gente ahí trabajando y uno sin poder hacer nada por ayudar, eso fue algo terrible.
¿Tú la viste
colapsar?
So, después que tú saliste, ¿para dónde tú cogiste?
Yo me di una vuelta, volví de regreso a la casa, puse el televisor y todo, porque yo salí a llamar a mis familiares, estaba intentando comunicarme con mi mamá de nuevo, no pude.
No entraban
porque no había señales. Traté de llamar a la gente que yo conocía a ver si estaban bien, que vivía en Nueva York, y no me pude comunicar con nadie. So, regresé a la casa, puse el televisor y ahí comencé. Se decía que no iba a pasar nada, que todo iba a estar bien, pero después cuando la primera torre colapsó, eso fue otro impacto. Ahí yo dije, wow, terrible, you know. Y después la segunda, eso fue algo increíble.
Y ya después de eso era nada más, like the rest of todos los días después de eso era nada más de eso.
Yeah, just talking about that, yeah. Pero así es.
Bueno, thank you very mucho.
No hay problema.
So, Raul.
What's up, Tony? Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Anytime. Thanks for being on the podcast. What do you remember from 9/11, and where were you when you heard?
Well, the day that the event happened, I don't remember much, but I remember how the one thing I remember clearly about the day that I'll never forget is how I found out it happened. So I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was driving with one of my ex-girlfriends. I was driving somewhere. I can't tell you where. But the thing that I stuck to my head on that day, we was driving normal down the street, and all of a sudden, this, what I thought at the time, some crazy lady ran out the house, flapping her hands, like asking for help. So
in Queens, right?
In Queens, yeah, yeah. I live in Queens. So this lady runs out, and she's like calling out for help. So I'm like, I pull over, lower my window, and to see what happened. Maybe, I don't know, something was happening in our house. And this lady's like screaming, like, oh my God, something's wrong. Come inside, come inside. Talking about, like, let's go inside and watch TV. And my girlfriend's like, what the, she's looking at this girl like she's nuts. But she was like an older lady.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, but what's going on, And she's like, no, because the towers, it's a fire. And, at that time, the car that I had was big into, like, music and hooking up a car. So my car had, like, TVs in every, in the front, the back.
Like the Fast and the Furious days?
Yeah. I had, like, I think it was, like, 5 TVs in that car. But anyway, so I put the TV on in my car. And the lady's there just, like, looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I could see TV right here.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I put the TV on, I see that the towers are on fire. The Twin Towers were like smoking. I'm like, oh shit, what happened? I have to go to work that day, and I work in downtown Manhattan. So I'm like, I don't know, I have to go back home. Try to put a job and see what's going on, because I work in security. So somebody has to be there in case some big event happens. So I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna get to work? Do I have to leave earlier? Because I did the night shift. So I'm like, do they need me to come in now? I have to go back home. So me and my girlfriend, I told my girlfriend, I forget where we're going, but I'm like, forget about that. I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I turned around. By the time I got home, and I turned the TV at home, the towers, one of them already fell.
Damn.
And then everybody's calling or trying to call because it's very sporadic, right? No lines, whatever.
All the cell phones are fucked up.
All the cell phones are fucked up. I don't know. At the time, my job had like a two-way pager, and that was working. It's like the old BlackBerry, right? It's two-way pages.
Because that shit was like on a different signal or something.
Analog lines, whatever. So that was the only thing that I was getting communications to and from work at that time. So, like, the job was sending messages like, we need you to come in.
And it was like somebody else that was already there?
That was already there at work, yeah. So that when I used to work, there was 24 hours a day, 2 shifts. So when that happened, I was like, there's no way trains are running. No. So, I put the news on. The second tower comes down. I'm like, holy, this is terrorism, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's no way. They're saying everything shut down, no in or out traffic from the city. So I'm not going to work. So that's out of the question.
Yeah, sure, because they stopped trains. They stopped, I think they closed the bridges.
Everything. It was only emergency service to the city.
And even the people were letting people out of the city walking. Because my brother was there and he had to walk the Brooklyn Bridge.
Just walking.
But nobody could get back in.
No bridge or tunnels, so I was pretty much stuck. So at work, the job became a 24-hour shift. So the people that were there,
they had to stay
on that day. They stood 24 hours into the next shift, which was me and another guy could make it in. So I was there the next morning.
The next morning you were able to?
The next morning, I was able to walk into work.
Fuck. How close were you to it?
I want to say
a couple miles,
15 blocks.
Damn. So
from my building, I could see the Twin Towers. Walking distance, 15 minutes.
How was it like when you went to work in the morning?
The next day?
Like a lot of ambulances, fire trucks, cops around?
Creepy, man.
Or just like
silent, empty. Yeah. The next morning was... the only thing I remember is the smell. 2 things, right? So I don't remember much that day that it happened. I remember how I knew because the lady, right? So that stuck in my head. The next day, getting to work, the train was running into the city, one stop, and then everything was walking distance. So my train to Chinatown, Essex Street, the J line, and then from Essex it was a walk all the way down to the South Ferry.
Damn.
So, and it was only critical personnel that were allowing in. So you had to have some type of ID to walk into the downtown, to the zone.
Fuck.
So the thing I remember the next day, apart from being stuck at work for a whole day, was the city's always busy, right?
Yeah.
No matter what time, it was solitude, just quiet. No, at the time, no more ambulances were running up and down because everything happened already.
Yeah.
Ground Zero was totally closed, so you couldn't even go near it. Everywhere else, walking was just dead quiet. The smell was bad.
Yeah.
It was funky, barbecue smell. When you cook meat, it was fucked up.
Fuck.
And the floor.
That was probably just bodies.
Well, it's still foggy, right? Because the next day the top was still burning. So it was just a smell of
wow,
like a barbecue smell. You put things to burn and the coal smells. I can't say it was like human flesh, or I don't know how that smells like.
That was definitely part of it.
Yeah, but
you know, but it was
I don't know, so I can't tell you how it smells like.
Yeah.
But it was just like a barbecue smell, like a funky smell.
Damn.
And the other thing is the floor was white. So we knew it was ashes.
Yeah.
Like debris, right? Not human ashes, but just ashes in general. The concrete. Was the cloud of smoke when blanketed everything, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
But the weird part about it, though, the thing that I remember the most was that they were like constantly washing it, right? So there was like the sanitation trucks that clean up
the street cleaning shit
with water, right? So everything was wet, but it was still white. So as much as they tried to brush it, it wouldn't come off.
Oh fuck!
I don't know how it was like baked into the ground.
Wow.
All like gray. So when as you walk, by the time we got to work, your feet were like all
white.
All white. The sole, your feet were so gray, not white, gray.
It was like a powder, like a soot.
But it was caked on. Yeah. It's like it wasn't like you could like sweep it. You didn't like sweep it off.
Yeah.
It was just like baked into the floor. It was like that for like a good month.
In all the buildings and all that
everything.
Shit? Like everything?
Everything was like... But the floor was...
Wow.
I stood at work doing basically nothing.
Yeah. Just like being on watch, just in case.
Yeah, phone call. Our business still have phones.
Oh.
Because they had like regular...
Like landline?
Yeah, the following days, everything was like coming back. Cell phones started working and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the only things I remember. How I found out that the towers were like on fire or whatever because of that lady that came out.
Anybody remember that shit?
Yeah.
Lady running in the middle of the street.
And then, some lady just telling you, come inside the house.
Yeah.
For like
screaming in the middle of the street and then saying, hey, come watch TV with me.
Yeah, like what the fuck? No, thank you. But because we didn't know,
Yeah.
And the next day, getting to work, that like smell with the quietness. It was eerie. It was empty. Like
That's
people
weird.
walking and there was cops in every corner. Like where you going, you can't go that way, go this way.
It was like the whole city was in shock.
You had to walk down. But you'd be surprised, there's a lot of people going to work the next day because they needed to go. Like these people, like engineers, those people had to stay in the building.
Yeah.
Like the security people, they were stuck there. Like I remember my building, the security supervisor, he lived there for like 3 weeks.
Damn.
He never went home.
Wow.
Because if he went home, it would like who else was gonna make it in?
Yeah.
When is he
was like covering everybody else that couldn't make it.
And believe it or not, people say like the workers, but where I worked was 85 Broad, like 3 or 4 blocks going to the west side. Left, right, something city. I forget. Some rich people, condos and stuff like that. Those people always left homeless. They have money, so they probably went somewhere else, but maybe they didn't, right? So that whole condominium was deemed unsafe.
Damn.
So everybody that lives in the neighborhood, most of them are wealthy, but
that's like put them somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah. There was a lady that worked with us that she said living at work. But she was like a big shot, so they took care of her, whatever. But she stood at the building when there was nobody working there, but she lived in the neighborhood. She stood there for like 3 weeks.
Damn.
She couldn't even come and shower. So our building had water, heat, AC and all that stuff. Or heat, or I don't remember, whatever it was. So she was better off at work than at her condo because she didn't have a second home or whatever.
That's crazy.
So she was like stuck at work for like a month until they deemed her apartment safe.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's 2 days that were crazy, man.
Hell yeah.
But that's, out of everything that happened, those 2 things was like, that's what sticks with me. The rest is history, but those 2 events like mark 9/11, man.
They stayed with you.
Yeah.
Damn it. That's dope, bro. Thank you.
Cool, man.
All right, baby. So, where were you on 9/11?
I was in gym class.
In Richmond Hill High School, where we both went.
Richmond Hill, yes,
where
Queens.
we went.
Back in the days. I was 17 years old. Beautiful.
You're still beautiful, babe.
Thanks. But yeah, I remember I was in gym class. We were doing stretches or something on the floor, and
Butterfly stretch.
I think so, something like that. And then one of the teachers came into the gym and told the teacher that was teaching us that something was going on. But we, at that point, we didn't know anything. We just, knew. We thought a helicopter had gone into Twin Towers.
Yeah, that's what we thought so.
Yeah, that was like an accident, the tourists, helicopters. We didn't have any information.
Yeah.
Just that something happened and we were allowed to go home, which was a good thing.
No, after the first one?
We were allowed to go home right away.
After the first plane? Like when he went in?
I don't know if it was the first. When I got home, already both of the...
Yeah. What happened when he hit for the first place? The first plane came in, and then the teacher came in to tell your teacher while you guys were doing stretches, and then what happened immediately after that?
I don't know if it was while when the first one was hit. I just know that a teacher went into.
Oh, okay.
A regular teacher went into the gym, and told the gym teacher that something was going on and that we were allowed to go home because, we weren't fully into the information yet, but we were allowed to go home. And since I live close by to Richmond Hill.
How close?
2 blocks. So we just went walking. I went walking home, and my mom was watching the news when I got home, and she was like, "Can you believe this? This is crazy."
So entonces with Julia habló con Carmen while she was home, and then you came home probably right after that.
Probably after that, yeah. Because I used to come home early anyways.
With the early schedule.
Yeah, I had the morning schedule. So it was from 9 to 1, I think, or 8 to 1.
Yeah.
Or 8 to 12.
I used to have that too. I think it was 12:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
That was for...
Either they let us go early, or because I don't remember that much.
Yeah.
Either they let us go early, or I was already, due to go home, because I think gym class was the last.
They probably cut the class short and let you guys
go, and let us leave early. Oh, and my dad, he was working in Manhattan, so I was I wonder if he saw anything or if he's okay. But we didn't have any information yet. We didn't know what was going on. We just knew that the Twin Towers were on fire and nothing had happened yet.
By the time you got home, you saw your mom watching the news, and she was
mom,
"Oh my God, can you see what's happening?" And then at that point, both planes hit, right?
Yeah, both of them were hit already. But seriously, I just didn't know
Everybody
what was going
still
on.
what the fuck
I was okay, they were hit, but they hadn't collapsed yet. So we were still okay, something happened in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Go get your little sister to school." And I went to PS 90, which was in a couple of blocks away. And when I got there was a huge line full of parents and...
Parents going to pick up their kids.
All the parents went to pick up their kids. And I was just waiting there until they let us all get whoever we went to pick up.
They were letting
all the kids were coming out of the classrooms. And I remember that in the news they were saying that a plane, they didn't know where a plane was. So we were all looking every time a plane passed us by, or we thought that it was gonna, fall on us or something. We still
everybody was scared and
nobody knew nothing.
What was going on? Yeah.
We didn't have any information. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what a terrorist attack was then, and they just kept repeating the same thing in the news. They didn't give anything different. So we were
they
confused.
Didn't even have any new information yet.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on either. And then after that is when we got home. Then that's when I found out that they had collapsed.
But you
already.
picked up your little sister. You got
Yeah.
her. You got Jacey, and then you took her home. And at that point, had your mom spoken to your dad? Or
No.
Nobody has still spoken to your dad?
Nobody has spoken to my dad. My dad was a cab driver in Manhattan. We didn't hear anything, but we didn't know it was like, I don't know if I probably didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
That big of a deal. Or we don't know. Like, we don't know I didn't know. Like, being a teenager, I just didn't think it was that severe of a case. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
But
And then what? You guys got home and just...
yeah, I don't remember really exactly how it went. You know, how it all happened, because
had collapsed already.
They had already collapsed when I got home. And then my mom told me to pick up my little sister. But that...
but when...
Because I remember that I got home like a little bit after like 10 probably. So that...
Like 12 something.
It must have been. I don't remember what happened really.
But when you got home first, they were still...
I remember things. I remember my mom watching the news, like sitting in the living room watching the news. But I remember like the smoke coming out of the...
Yeah.
But remember that they were like repeating the same thing. I don't remember if it already had collapsed.
And they were just repeating.
And they were just repeating like the same visual, you know, like...
Yeah.
So I don't remember exactly how it went, but
after you had Jacey, by the time you got back home, they were...
Probably after I got Jacey, I already had collapsed already, but we didn't... I don't know, I just didn't... I thought it was like surreal, like, nah. Yeah. Not a big deal. It's okay. Like, they were telling us that it was okay, that nothing was...
They didn't want anybody to freak out.
Yeah, nobody to get alarmed. When we didn't hear anything about my dad yet, but we probably didn't think that it was... My mom probably thought that it was bad.
Well, she was keeping it together, so you guys wouldn't freak out.
So we wouldn't freak out, but...
And then...
Because I don't even remember when we heard of... I think my dad called my mom, like from the base. No, Judy? I don't remember. He called her and he said that he was okay. Yeah. And then we were all okay. You know, because he was like the main thing, because he was close to the Twin Towers. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
Hello, Elaine. All right, so where were you exactly when you first heard about 9/11? Like when the planes hit?
Well, when I first heard that something had happened in New York like that, it was during the home period of my high school.
How old are you?
15. So they basically put it over the loudspeaker, you know, for us to stay where we were, not to switch classes, and that we would be having to call our parents to pick us up.
From homeroom?
From where we were.
No, when that happened, that was like after like the first plane, or after like both of them hit. Do you remember that?
Both of them, yeah. And we tried to look out the windows, the few windows we had in our classroom, to see if we could see smoke, because we had heard like you could see smoke from miles away, but I guess it was mainly like in Brooklyn, because from Queens you couldn't see anything.
And you were at what high school?
I went to Thomas Edison Technical Vocational High School. But at the time, actually all our parents were in DR because they had gone to a memorial for my grandmother that had passed on 9/11, but the year prior. So actually my friend's mom picked me up, and I ended up going to her house. And a bunch of our cousins, we all kind of like spoke over the phone. We started calling each other. We were all worried because we're like, none of our parents are here. What do we do? Are they going to be able to fly back in? Are they going to stop all flights? Because they were all like literally over there for the anniversary of our grandma's death. So all the cousins were just kind of like on our own with either one parent or just No parents.
And how was it? How was it like initially? Like when you first heard, like getting in touch with people, or like actually, how long did it take after first hearing when they told you that you guys were gonna have to wait and your parents were gonna pick you up and stuff like that? Like how much time elapsed between then and when you guys like actually left the school?
I want to say maybe 2 hours had passed, because even though we got to call our parents, like not everyone could just come out of their job to come pick us up. Some people had to just like stay in school and wait for like a friend of a friend or somebody to pick them up. So it wasn't long, and then I went to my friend's house, and I was just there with her and with her parents, and just trying to get in touch with my mom in DR. And
it was tough with like phones to like go through, right?
Yeah, phone calls were like blocked. Oh, they sounded busy.
Yeah. And like in school during like those 2 hours, it was like school wasn't really happening, right? It was just like everybody was just there and like waiting for time to pass type of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like math class as usual, you know?
No, not at all. Everyone was just kind of like talking to each other, something that never happens during class. They were like giving us permission to talk instead of like saying stay quiet. Like they just knew that we had to express ourselves and try to like deal with what had happened. At the time, I didn't think anyone in my classroom was affected directly. Like they didn't have parents or friends or family that were in there, so nobody was like hysterical crying, but we were all just kind of like
in shock. And
yeah,
even the teachers like at that time, like they didn't know what the hell was going on. They were like trying to figure things out themselves.
Exactly, just kind of like waiting to hear from like what the mayor was up to and what he was going to do, or Giuliani at the time.
Then when you went to your friend's house, like how was that? It was just like, because I remember like when I got home, finally after like when we heard, we were just like watching the TV, watching the news. Every single channel was, you know, it was like the same exact thing. And
you know, I don't remember watching TV actually.
No. Do you remember like what you did like when you went to your friend's house?
We were just in her room listening to music. We didn't turn on the radio or anything like that, I guess.
You just like CDs or whatever.
Carried on as normal as possible.
Like a regular, like a 15-year-old, a teenager.
Right. Yeah.
But then, do you remember? Was there a point where you realized like, oh shit, like like something serious went down?
Well, yeah, it was serious because it was the Twin Towers, and I remember like thinking sometimes during like half days at school, we would like not go home and we'd go into the city. Actually, remember Mars 2112? That was like this restaurant that was kind of like remember we would
the outside, it was like it looked like junk kind of.
Yeah, like planets and things.
Yeah.
And we would go into the city. We'd just take the train to 42nd Street. We'd be there, chill all day. We'd walk from like 42nd Street down to like downtown Brooklyn. I mean, not downtown Brooklyn, downtown Manhattan. And I was just thinking, like, imagine we had gone to one of those like places that we would go to, and it would have happened to us. But thankfully, it didn't. But it was so random on a Tuesday, and sometimes we'd be out in the city just trying to have a good day because we were like off from school or whatever. And to think it could have happened to anyone that was just on their way to work or just crossing by because they worked across the street, you know, it just sucks.
It's crazy.
I actually work right now with someone who's also one of the last survivors that they pulled out. She wrote a book about.
And she was there?
She was there. She worked there, and she came down with the building, and she was trapped, and she was the last person that came out.
Oh wow!
That they pulled her out, and she wrote a book, and it's called Angel in the Rubble, but the angel is not her. Like, she's not referring to herself. She legit was talking about, in the book, she talks about how there was someone there, like with her, like trapped also, but she couldn't see them, but she could hear them. And it turns out that there was nobody. So it's kind of like I don't know if you want to call it God or an angel or something, or maybe it was a firefighter that then passed away. Who knows? But somebody was there, like saying, "We're gonna be okay. Someone's gonna find her. Yeah, or someone's gonna find us." And
what's her name?
Janelle is her name.
Damn, that's crazy.
And she got married, and afterward, like, she was here illegally. She's from Trinidad, and she was so worried because when they found her and they started like asking her for her paperwork and all this stuff, like eventually like to get her name because she was the last survivor and it was like a big thing. And she was just kind of scared to even speak up because she was there. Like she worked for the Port Authority, but as a contractor, like as a kind of like on a temp agency kind of basis. So she was afraid she was going to lose her job and all this stuff. But they actually paid for her wedding. Bride.com or like something like that paid for her wedding. She got to write a book. Like she was on CNN, I think.
Wow, that's crazy.
Back in the day, yeah.
That's a sick story.
And she works like 4 cubicles for me. She's been with the Port Authority for like 25 years now.
I have a coworker that actually she told me her husband worked at the Twin Towers when it happened, and like that day, the night before, he was there like super late, and because of that, he was going into work late the next day because he wound up like getting stuck at work, like extra work or whatever. So he took like a later shift the next day, and that one of his like close friends, coworkers, he had an alarm that was like an A and B type of alarm, and when he set alarm A when he was gonna go into the office early, and alarm B when he was gonna go into the office late. And sin querer, by mistake, he pressed alarm B when he was supposed to press alarm A.
Oh.
And he was supposed to be there, but then he pressed alarm B by mistake, and he was like pissed when he woke up. He was like, "Oh my god, I'm so late to work. I was supposed to be there early." And then he turns on like the news and stuff like that, and he found out that like 9/11 happened.
That's crazy.
It's just like a lot of sick stories like that.
Mm-hmm. And also when you hear about all the people that came to help afterwards, like they just they didn't leave the building. Like they would come out, but they'd go back in. That's kind of crazy. Like to have that kind of like courage to go back in.
Like in and out, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of firefighters died that day.
Mm-hmm.
There's this famous guy, I forgot his name. The guy from Forrest Gump, that he's like one of the people on the Bubba Gump shrimp, skinny one.
Bubba?
No.
Lieutenant Dan?
No, wait. Is it? No, not Lieutenant Dan. Anyway, he's like an ex-firefighter or something like that. He's famous. He's an actor. And he volunteered days after. When I read that, I was like, oh, crap. Everyone was like, just like had a connection with the loss, even if they weren't here.
Anything else you remember around that time?
No, when we actually, when we came back to school, they had us write, like, they gave us all like a pre-printed handout that said like how we felt about 9/11. Like you could write a poem or just like an essay or whatever.
To like express yourself somewhere.
Yeah, and we all wrote something, and that was it.
You remember what you wrote?
Yeah, I wrote like a cheesy poem. Some of it rhymed, but yeah, I have it somewhere tucked away because I haven't thrown away any like paper that I've ever written or has been given to me. I have it at home under my bed. And
you recently wrote a post about 9/11, you said, right?
Yes, I went to visit the 9/11 museum, which I didn't do it when they first opened, when like the rush and everyone was going. I just went randomly because on Tuesdays they have you can get free tickets because it happened on Tuesday, September 11. Yeah. So every Tuesday, you can go online and print out a free ticket. They have a limited number of tickets, obviously, so just try to do that early. So we went because my friend had free tickets. Wasn't like I was actually trying to go because I didn't even know what to expect. 9/11 museum, like.
Yeah, I went once too. It was kind of like, it was like eerie. It was like interesting but eerie at the same time.
Like it's not something that I was like dying to go see, but then I was like, let me just check it out. So, and I actually was really touched by it. I was really touched by it.
And that's why you wrote the post?
Yeah.
Like afterwards? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes.
And anybody who's interested can see your post at?
Yes, on Facebook.
On Facebook?
Yes, I'll try to send you the link.
Yeah, I'll link to it, like in the episode notes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so 9/11. You and me went to high school together. You're my best friend. Mm-hmm. And I know that the occurrence of 9/11 changed like the trajectory of your life, technically. Not that you wouldn't have wound up joining the Army anyway, but that's something that you've told me was one of the reasons why you decided to like join the Army. So what this episode is like I told you before, is like a bunch of people just saying like where they were when 9/11 actually happened, like where they were when they first heard, and That's it. Where were you?
Just to start us off, like, what's the cool way of holding the mic? Like, I know when they rap, they cover half the mic, or
like Hov.
bottom, or how is it? Like Hov? That's how
like
sound good. Right, cool. No, I've always been patriotic, but I signed up to the military before 9/11 happened. Actually, a month before, me and Abby went to my cousin Abby Gonzalez went to go sign up to the army. It's something I always wanted to do, and
before it happened.
Yeah, before. Yeah. We signed up in August. I knew I wanted it since I was a kid, and. At 16, I went to the recruiting. No, 16, 17. Well, yeah, 17 years old. I went to the recruiting station, and I needed a signature from my parent. And
Which way? You went to the one on Lefferts?
Yeah, I left it to Liberty. Yeah, right by that banging halal truck.
Yeah.
So I went over there, and the guy promised me, that I could go home every weekend and fucking
the world.
Everything. I could take a helicopter straight from my room straight to Brooklyn to Queens, and everything is all nice and dandy, and I could take vacations whenever I want, whatever. And my mom was like, heck no. I'm sorry, my dad was like, heck no. You're not gonna do that. He never wanted me to work, and let alone fucking go to the military. So I had to get my mom to sign the waiver. And
how'd your mom feel about it? Like when you told her?
She always supported me and everything. Since I was 15 years old, I started packing bags with her brother, who had a pizza restaurant at the Western Beef there at Metropolitan. And I used to go with him. He used to open up the restaurant, and then I used to help him set up. Like 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and after we set up, when the supermarket opened at 7, I would just go straight to the cashier's line and start packing bags. So I've always, she's always supported me in that, when my father didn't want to. Anywho,
because your pops wanted to like provide for you, and he didn't want you to like pasar trabajo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That old Dominican mentality. So anyway, but I knew I always wanted it. I always wanted to be in the military. I always wanted to shoot guns. I wanted to be a cop. All that good stuff. And so I signed. So I went, and he said no, and my mom said yes, and she signed, and that was in August. That's when Abby had graduated too from high school. He didn't know what to do. He was at his house not doing anything, and he was just like, "All right, Steven's doing it. Let me do it too." So we both went to the military base there at last exit on the Verrazano, on the Bell Parkway by the Verrazano, and we signed up to the military.
Well, this is after you sign up first. You go to that recruiting thing, right, on Lefferts?
Yeah, we go to Lefferts, and then they set up your paperwork. You take the ASVAB test, and you pass that. And
what is that? That's like
the ASVAB test is a military test. No, it's
written.
It's a written. No, it's actually in a computer. It's a computer test, and that basically puts you in what position you're gonna depending on your score and what job they place you in the military. There's over 1,000 jobs, from cook to nuclear, fucking plant technician or whatever the heck.
There's the infantry.
Yeah, that's what you get: infantry, artillery, car mechanic, or whatever. The test is actually designed to put you where you fit in the military.
I remember you and Abby used to argue about the king of battle versus the queen of battle, or some shit like that.
Yeah, well, me and him, we're best friends, brothers, but we always argue about everything. And he was infantry, which is the queen of battle. And no, but this is not. I mean, this is a fact, but obviously, he makes fun of it. And artillery is the king of battle. We go and we destroy everything. So he signed up to. I actually wanted to jump out of airplanes, and the job they had jumping out of airplanes was artillery. Which is 13 Bravo in the Army, which is an artillery crewman, and your job is to deal with these 119ers and these 198 howitzers, put a round in it, and and send steel downrange. And then so it was pretty cool. I was like, shit, I'm gonna be jumping out of airplanes and blowing shit up. Why not? Sign me up. So I signed up. And then so me and Abby signed up. That was August, the beginning, or I think it was middle of August. I know the summer was ending when we signed up. And then we start school again, which is, I think, the last week of August that we started, or the first week?
Yeah,
something like that.
Last week of August.
I remember I was smarter than you. I think I started first because I had 3 classes in my senior year when you went to school 9 to 5. 11:30 or something like that. I used to get out of class.
Because I didn't like gym, and I wound up having 3 gym classes my senior year. Nothing to do with smart, but...
By the way, 20 was a smarter one. I jumped from freshman to junior within 3 years. I was a knucklehead in my first 2 years, and then I met this girl, and she switched my life around. And I started going to John Adams, to night school, summer school, and I did within a year, I got all my credits back, and my senior year actually worked out. I had 3 classes.
Yeah, I remember that shit. You used to leave when I was coming in.
Going in, yeah. Anywho, so 9/11.
Where were you when you first heard the news? When you first heard that there was something going on?
I think I was in Mrs. Cetron's class. I think it was a math class,
I remember Mr. Trump was a biology teacher.
Okay.
I had him in freshman biology.
I know he was goofy with white hair.
He was in science,
Yeah, I know it was science and math, one of the two. But I remember, I think I was in his class, and I took a pass to go to the bathroom, go to the restroom, come back, and while I'm coming back, somebody screams through the hallway, "Yo, did you hear the towers got hit?" I'm like, what? Like, yeah, they got hit, but it was probably one of these rich motherfuckers, with a helicopter or something. Oh, shit, yeah. So then I go back to class, and I said, hey, Mr. Sechon, did you hear what happened? He said, yeah, we heard. Sit down. The principal's going to speak now or something like that. Like an announcement was coming, or they were commencing something, I don't know. And then, we got the news that the second plane hit. And they were like, oh, shit, it's a terrorist attack. He said, everybody stay put, we're probably going to go in lockdown. Right there, I freaking put my bags in my book bag, and I remember going out the back door. A bunch of us did. We went down the stairs, and I was like, let me get the fuck out of the school before it gets shut down, and then I can't leave till
and then you're stuck inside.
Yeah, exactly, for like a couple of hours or even the next day. I really didn't call anybody because I didn't have anybody that worked in the city. My father was a bodeguero. My mom was not. My mom wasn't even working at the time. I think she used to help my dad out. Elaine was in Thomas Edison. I really didn't have any family.
Thomas Edison was in Brooklyn, right?
No, that's Queens.
Oh,
that's by Jamaica Estates around there.
Oh yeah.
They're good with like mechanic and electricians. Around there. Yeah, they have a specialty in that. And so I don't really have people. I wasn't really worried about people that like close family members that were there. But of course, you're worried about the other people's family members. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember calling anybody like, did you get out the building? Were you there? This and that. I think Vicente. I called the only person I called was Vicente, Abi's brother. Because I know he worked in the city. He had to do something with MTA or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I know he worked in the city. I don't know what street, but I just called him anyway. He said he was good.
And it actually went through? Like the phone calls? Because I remember
No. I remember I couldn't even call my mom.
You had to call like crazy. And
I was
to see if maybe something goes through.
Yeah, I remember I kept calling. I couldn't. And then when I got home, I called from the house phone, from the landline. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get through. And, everybody was safe. My parents were in Brooklyn. I was in Queens. Elaine was in Queens. Everybody was good. And that was that. And then we turn on the TV and we see all this shit that's happening. I didn't get to see it until I got home. Everything was just like hearsay in the school and walking home. I remember walking home. I used to live on 101 Street, and our high school was on 113th Street, so it was only 12 blocks down the subway line, Jamaica Ave. And we went home, and I started seeing that, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, wow, like I know what awaits me. I know I had
just signed up.
I had just signed up because the reason I signed up early was because I didn't want to waste any time. And I knew what I wanted. I didn't want to waste any time. Like I planned, like I go to the military now. I'll be out by the time I'm 21. Become a cop. That's when you could become a cop at 21, 22 years old. I always had that timeline of who I wanted to be at what time. And so I knew what awaited me. I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to put on these boots and these fatigues and, and go fight these motherfuckers. And
like that emboldened you more. Like you wanted, like it pushed you more to like want to.
Yeah, I was hyped. And everybody, when I remember going to basic training, everybody was hyped. Like
everybody was like gung-ho about it as opposed to like being like, oh, fuck, what did I do? Just get myself into? I don't want to be in this.
Our class was like probably like 400 or 500 people. About 3/4 of the class, were dying to put on those boots and those desert fatigues and go and those desert BDUs and go overseas to the Middle East and fight these guys. You have the other class that just signed up, to get the GI Bill and take the benefits, and they couldn't get a job, so they signed up to the Army. Mm-hmm. But the majority
people that do it like for money and benefits,
exactly,
type shit, as opposed to defend the nation.
People do it for the country and and values and patriotism. We were hyped. I remember working out hard. We would the drill sergeants used to tell us, listen, we're training you hard. You might not even get to your command. You might get out of here and they might tell you, listen, you're shipped out. So we were we're already mentally prepared 6 months prior.
Straight to
exactly
to war.
Yeah. And
how was that?
It actually
that must
happened.
have been like a mind fuck.
No. It was. To me, it wasn't. I actually wanted it. The reason you train, is for 6 months. Get 5 hours of sleep. All the folding the sheets and the push-ups and all that military discipline they teach you. They almost like it sets you up for that. Exactly. You want to apply it. You want to go out there and fight and send rounds down range. And that's exactly what happened. I remember got stationed to the 82nd Airborne in North Carolina. As soon as I got there,
shout out to Fort Bragg. I remember visiting you there when you were
in Fayetteville. That's when we saw 8 Mile. Remember?
Yeah.
We saw 8 Mile over there.
I saw it for the second time. I saw it there. The first time with my brother and his boy Jeff. I remember we went when it came out. We saw it, and then shortly after that, I went to North Carolina with your sister and your pops and your uncle.
Yeah. And we're sitting back in the Greyhound and you stood.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then we were having like so much fun like that weekend. I was like, fuck it, let me stay longer.
Yeah. We started hitting all those Southerns, right? Like Sonics and all those chicken and waffle spots and stuff like that. All the stuff you see in the BET videos.
Hell yeah. We had so much fun, yo. That was a cool weekend.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, definitely. It was the first time we actually hung out after like the whole academy and everything like that. In the AIT. So we went, it was great. As soon as we got there, they said, listen, don't even unpack. We have military orders for you guys to go down. And I remember that. And I remember going, I got assigned my room. I left everything in my duffel bags. It was like 3 duffel bags, I remember. Big, one was as tall as me. 5'6", by the way. I remember just taking out like my underwear and socks and t-shirts, the basic things that I'm going to need. Because I'm like, why the hell am I going to pack all this shit, to head out again. And
where was basic training? Was in Fort Bragg, right?
No, Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, and then
Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Then you were stationed in like Fort Bragg.
Yeah, I was in Oklahoma first for 6 months, and then after that I got sent to for 3 weeks to Georgia and Fort Benning for airborne training. And from airborne training, I had a week off. I remember taking the Greyhound up there, and you picked me up at the bus terminal.
With Esther and Christy.
Yeah, exactly. I was pissed off because somebody stole my PlayStation from my bag.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember that?
Yeah.
You were like out there.
I remember there was something going on. I forgot what it was though. I forgot it was a PlayStation thing.
Yeah, somebody robbed my PlayStation on the way.
Fuck.
And we chilled for a week, and then I got back to North Carolina, and right there, and we got sent out.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was cool.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just want obviously the whole Army experience and stuff like that. That's that's a whole podcast in and of itself. I just wanted to do where you were when you first heard of 9/11 and your experience with that.
Yeah, rest in peace. So all those souls lost, and always remember, never forgotten.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No doubt.
The third plane that was in play that day was American Airlines Flight 77, which left out of an airport near Washington, D.C. This was the plane that later crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. Those are all the interviews that I have for you guys today. And throughout the episode, in my conversation, you may have picked up on where I was during 9/11. But in case you didn't, I'm going to share it with you here now, before we get to the housekeeping portion of the episode. I was 17 years old and in high school. I went to Richmond Hill High School here in Queens. And many schools are overpopulated, especially in bigger cities. Richmond Hill is one of them. A way to combat the overpopulation was that the schoolyard was converted into classroom trailers. So it was literally like a trailer, those home trailers that you would see, or trailers that some people live in, or just picture an 18-wheeler, the cargo trailer that it pulls in the back. One of those container-looking things turned into a classroom, and they were actually pretty nice because they were new. When the first plane hit, I was actually in my history class, which happened to be in the trailers. Now, the cool thing about the trailers also was that instead of, being confined within the building, when you had a class in the trailers, you would have to, exit the building, and you would be outside basically while you walk to your next class in the trailers. And back then I used to smoke cigarettes and stuff, thinking I'm cool, and just meet up with friends and smoke some cigarettes, and before going to class, go to class late and stuff like that. So we would look forward to transitioning between building and trailer. But anyway, I was in my history class, and a teacher comes in and tells our teacher that a plane hit the Twin Towers, or one of the towers rather. And we didn't think much of it, honestly. Based on the both teachers and their demeanor and reaction, we pretty much all wrote it off as, somebody taking flight lessons and, in one of those little planes or maybe a helicopter may have clipped the building or the side of a building or something like that. And we pretty much wrote it off and continued with the lesson. Then about 15 minutes later, the same professor comes in again, the same teacher, and he tells our teacher that another plane hit the Twin Towers. At that point, everybody's mood changed. We were kids, 17 years old, but we knew something was up. And we going off, at least for me personally, playing off of my teacher, basically, the oh shit expression came over his face. At that point, he flat out told us that this must be a terrorist attack. And I'm not sure I remember exactly if he said terrorist attack or just attack. But he did state that this must be an attack. And if anyone has family that worked in the city, to feel free to leave class now and go outside and try to get in touch with them because something was going down. And that's pretty much exactly what I did. And I left, walked out of the trailer, and, like a bunch of other people did, and started making my way home while trying to call my brother, which I knew worked in the city, but I wasn't exactly sure where or how far away he was from the World Trade. Thinking the worst, and just focusing on trying to get home. And I didn't live that far from the school, but I had to take the bus to get there. And if not, it would be a pretty lengthy walk, but a doable walk. I would do it sometimes, like hanging out after school type of thing, killing time and walk home instead of taking the bus. But I walked along towards home, trying to get in touch with my brother, calling, and there was no signal. No calls were going through. And I don't remember getting on the bus, but I must have eventually. Then I got home, where I believe my father was there already. And if not, then he got there shortly after I did. And we continued to try to get in touch with my brother. And eventually, I don't remember which one of us, but one of us obviously did. And he was walking the Brooklyn Bridge, as you guys heard earlier, when I interviewed him, out of the city. And my father and I drove down Atlantic, and, there were just droves of people, cars picking up their significant others and loved ones and family members and friends the same exact way as we were. And we met up with him and picked him up, then went home. And that's where I was, and my personal experience with exactly where I was during 9/11. Like I said in the intro, I think it's important that we continue to share these stories with each other. And if you guys want to share yours with me and the rest of the Spun Today community, or listeners rather, feel free to do so. Reach out to me on through the website at spuntoday.com, through the contact page, or just email me at spuntoday@gmail.com. If you like, I'll even share your stories on a future episode of the podcast. That said, let's do some housekeeping and see if we can keep the lights on. What's up, folks? Tony here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast as much as I enjoy producing it for you. Here are a few quick ways you can help support this show. You can support the Spun Today podcast by going to spuntoday.com/support. There, you'll find my merch section, where you can cop the iconic Podcasts vs. Anybody t-shirt in a wide variety of different colors and all different sizes. Also, if you're into cycling, you can cop the super soft, comfortable, minimalist design Spun Today Bike Club t-shirt. Also available in a bunch of different colors in all different sizes. There are a few other designs of different types of t-shirts. Definitely go there and check it out. spuntoday.com/support. It's the merch section, where you can also get a dope coffee mug. I have coffee mugs with the brand new redesigned Spun Today logo on one side, and the tagline that I end every show with on the other, which is start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. The mug is available in both black and white, because we don't discriminate here at the Spun Today Podcast. Again, go to spuntoday.com/support and check out the merch section. You can support the Spun Today Podcast by checking out my writing. You can go to spuntoday.com/free writing and check out some of my free association writing, which is intended to be some cathartic free writing, but oftentimes doubles down as motivation for myself and others. At spuntoday.com/short stories, you can read a bunch of the different short stories that I've written and actually listen to the audiobook versions of those short stories there as well. Another way you can help support my writing is by going to spuntoday.com/books and checking out what I have in store for sale. Digital copies are available in all formats, whether it be Kindle, iBooks, or a different type of e-reader. You can also purchase paperback copies, if that's your preferred reading method. Currently available, I have my nonfiction, Make Way For You, which is a collection of freely written thoughts that were curated and put together as tips for getting out of your own way. Also available is my debut time travel novel, titled Fractal. Again, go to spuntoday.com/books to show your support. Support the Spun Today Podcast by following me on social, at Spun Today on Twitter, at Spun Today on Instagram. Please also check out and like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Spun Today, and subscribe to my YouTube page as well. On my YouTube page, not only will you get these full-length episodes, but you'll also get to check out some chopped up clips and bonus content. To get to my YouTube page, just search Spun Today on YouTube or click on any of the YouTube icons on the footer of my website. Also, don't forget to rate and review this podcast wherever it is that you're listening. It really does help. The Spun Today newsletter is available to each and every one of my listeners absolutely for free. All you have to do is go to spuntoday.com/subscribe and drop in your email address. What I'm going to do is brighten up everybody's least favorite day of the week by delivering 5 curated things within my weekly newsletter every Monday at noon. You're going to receive a photo of the week, a recommended podcast of the week. I listen to tons of podcasts from an array of varied interests. I cherry pick the very best ones so that you can check them out. I also share a video of the week, which can be anything from a tasty recipe to a dope rap battle to an enlightening TED Talk. I also share a quote of the week. And finally, for my fellow wordsmiths out there, a word of the week, so that you can step up your vocab. Again, this curated list is yours absolutely free by going to spuntoday.com/subscribe and dropping in your email address, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Again, go to spuntoday.com/subscribe, drop in your email address, and you'll get the very next one. If you want to help support the Spun Today Podcast financially, you can do so by going to spuntoday.com/support. Here you'll find a few different ways that you can do so. You can shop on Amazon, but first go to my website, spuntoday.com/support, click on the Amazon banner, which will take you to Amazon's website where you do your shopping like you normally do. It will not cost you anything extra, but I will get credit for driving traffic to their website. Another cool way that you can help support this show is through Patreon, where you can set up reoccurring donations to my podcast, whether it be $1 per show, $2 per show, etc. And depending on how much you choose to pledge, you will receive some Patreon perks in return. Things like free writing pieces, free bookmarks, free digital copies of my books, etc. Again, my Patreon link can be found at spuntoday.com/support. You can also set up similar reoccurring payments via my Ko-fi page. And if you want to send a one-time happiness bomb donation, if you will, you can do so via my PayPal link. Again, all of which can be found at spuntoday.com/support. If you're a fellow creative, a cool way that you can help support the Spun Today podcast and actually be part of the podcast is by filling out my 5-question questionnaire located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Here you'll find 5 open questions related to your craft, your art, what inspires you to create, what type of unrelated hobbies you're into, and what motivates you to get your work done. You can choose to remain anonymous or plug your website and your work. And once you submit your questionnaire, I read your responses on a future episode of the Spun Today podcast. It's completely free at no cost to you. And what I like to say about it is that if your responses could potentially spark inspiration in someone else, why not share that? spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening. I love you, Aiden.
I love you, Daddy.